Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Max, Chief Evangelist over here at Happily, and I'm going to show you some of the different ways you can use all the different quote Happily features in order to be able to have controls over discounting. Now, there's a number of different ways that you can do it, and I just want to show you a couple of examples here. Right here, I'm looking at a quote rule that I built, and in this scenario, we want to make it so that if somebody quotes a discount over 10%, anywhere between 10 and 25%, what we want to do is we want to trigger an approval. But in this case, we want to actually send it to the sales manager, because if we actually ask for over 25%, we want to send it to the CFO and the finance team, right? But only if the discount percentage is greater than 30% or 25% in this case. So here we have it set so when a quote has a discount percentage for the line items that is either greater than or equal to 10%, but less than 25%, we're going to trigger an outcome of requiring an approval. We're going to pop a message up that says this quote will require sales manager approval. And then we're going to put it into the approval queue, which will actually trigger one of our advanced workflows that we have inside of HubSpot that is managing the actual approval itself. And in that workflow, the approval request is actually going to the sales manager. But what if they discount over 25% and they get into the range where the CFO and the finance team needs to actually manage that approval? Well, we've got another rule set up here called quotes over 25% require CFO approval, right? So down here, we have any line items where the discount percentage is greater than or equal to 25%. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to require an approval, but in this case, we're going to pop a different message that says this quote will be sent to CFO for approval. And the approval queue that we're going to put it in is actually going to be the finance approval, which is going to go through a different workflow that triggers the approvals to go to different people instead of just the sales manager, right? Now, another thing that we can do too is we can say, hey, if they discount over 30%, we don't even want the CFO or the finance team to waste their time on that. So we can institute a block rule, which will stop people from even submitting a quote if they're discounting too much above a certain threshold. So here I have the same condition set up where I say if the line item discount percentage is greater than 30%, what we're going to do is instead of sending it to an approval, we're going to do a block outcome. And the block outcome will basically flash a little red banner across the screen. It'll say you cannot discount over 30% on any single line item, and it will stop them from even submitting the quote from approval or publishing the quote at all. In this case, they would actually have to go back and adjust the discount until it fell under one of those acceptable thresholds that would actually go to an approval. Now, another way we can manage discounting is using price books. So I'm going to pop into price books over here, and here I have a wholesaler or reseller price book, right? And in this case, whenever we're selling to a company that in HubSpot we have designated as a wholesaler or a reseller, however you decide to set your company properties up to do that, right? We want to make sure that they're using this price book that has automatically adjusted and overridden prices, right? Instead of whatever the list price is. So in this scenario, everyone's getting a 10% discount if they are in a, state of being a wholesaler or a reseller. But the question is, how do we enforce to make sure that these prices are automatically adjusted and this price book is being used? Well, you guessed it, we're going to create another rule. Rules can be used for so many different things in HubSpot, especially when it comes down to how you're managing and controlling your discounting strategy and what people are allowed to do. Remember, guidance, guardrails, and governance, you can apply that to the way your sales reps are allowed to discount instead of it just being the wild, wild west, which is what it is out of the box with HubSpot's native quoting. All right. Now, in this case, what we're doing, since we've already built our price book, we're basically going to build a rule that's going to enforce that price book gets used. So the sales rep doesn't have to think of which price book that they use or how they automatically discount the price. It's just going to do it for them. Okay. So in this case, I have a rule called set price books for wholesale customers. And then it's going to say automatically set wholesale price books for reseller customers, right? Reseller, wholesaler, whatever you call them, totally up to you, right? But in this case, what I'm doing is I have a company property in my HubSpot account on company records called type. And I have an option in there called reseller. This could be called anything. You can call it wholesaler, reseller, banana, whatever you want to call it. All right. But basically what's going to happen is when I build a quote and it's associated to a company who is a reseller, right? what's going to happen is we're going to use an outcome of set price book. And in this case, we are going to enforce the use of the wholesale price book that I've built right here, right? So as soon as that rep opens up the quote and has that company associated to the deal, it is automatically going to make sure that it's using the wholesaler price book, and the prices that they put on there are the prices they should be using. They don't have to think about it, all right? These are just some of the many, many different and almost infinitely creative ways that you can discount control inside of HubSpot using Quote Happily. If you guys have any questions, let us know.